This video is brought to you by flybuyer.com, my brand new and free weekly newsletter that covers all the latest aviation headlines that you need to know. Just go to flybuyer.com to get on the list. Link is in the description. What's up, guys? Welcome back inside the cockpit of a Navy C-2 Greyhound, lovingly nicknamed the Battle Cod, at least by some. I'm your host, Rob Roy. That's me on the left side of the screen, sitting in the Copilot seat, joined by my pilot on the right, and today we are overhead the boat at 1,200 feet in what's called the vertical stack. For those of you that don't know, we can't just land on the carrier anytime we please or anytime we get there. We have to arrive at a very specific time. In order to avoid collision between all the different aircraft that make up the air wing, the C-2s, the E-2s, and the Hornets, we all are assigned a different altitude. For the C-2, or the COD, that's 1,200 feet. So here we are, circling overhead, waiting for our arrival time. Now here's where it gets fun. We have to time our landing on the carrier to coincide seconds after they finish launching aircraft from the same cycle. Where it gets interesting is we don't know how long the launch is going to take. So we have to be ready to come down at any given moment and come in for the carrier break. Now, as C-2 pilots, we usually only trap on the carrier once or twice a day. Unlike some of the Hornet squadrons, they're trapping and taking off all day long during different cycles. But when we are in town, it's up to us to set the pace because we're at the bottom of the stack. As we come in for the carrier break, the Hornets and the E-2s above us collapse the stack. Got it? So that brings us to today's video, where the pilot in the left seat is going to try something out of the ordinary called a shit-hot break, and it's his first time doing it. For a normal carrier break, when it's your turn to collapse the stack, you come in very fast overhead the boat at 800 feet. For the C-2 and the E-2 are capped out about 300 knots. The Hornets, they go a lot faster than that because they can. But standard operating procedures dictate that you go a mile in front of the carrier and then you brake to the left. Now, as pilots get a little less green and become more salty and comfortable behind the boat, they usually might brake just a little bit in front of the ship. But when you're really feeling cocky and you've done this a handful of times, that's when you try a shit hot. So for a shit hot, the same rules apply. 800 feet for the C-2, 300 knots. The difference is you brake behind the boat. Basically, you turning right over the stern of the ship. You can imagine where this gets really hard because you have zero room for error. If you mess this up, best case scenario, you get laughed at when you land on the deck eventually. Worst case scenario is you kill yourself and the crew on board. So here we are, coming on down, increasing our airspeed, getting ready for the shit hot. The pilot is the right amount of nervous, but confident enough to give it a try. Now, I've done this a few times before, and I'm walking through the procedures best I can, and I learned from the best from somebody who taught me when we were on deployment. Now I'm going to fast forward a minute so we can get to the good stuff. Okay, here we are, 800 feet, 300-ish knots, pretty fast for a COD, ready to rip it behind the boat, fast as C-2 can. Here we go, 60-degree angle of bank, trying to keep that horizon level. Don't try this in your Cirrus. Big pool coming in, we're capped out at 2 Gs per our limits, but nonetheless using the angle of bank to try and slow us down. The idea is to not lose any altitude until we get below our gear speed of 190 knots. Now if you're watching this and you're a little scared by the amount of ocean that's taking up our windscreen, you should be. Now we're just getting below gear speed, gear's coming down. You can see the camera shudder a little bit as the gear starts coming down. Putting that much drag outside the airplane is really going to help us slow down. Quick wings level to see where we are in the turn, back at it, keeping the turn coming in tight. It's me looking out the window, seeing where we are, checking our spacing, and now I'm quickly running the rest of the landing checklist. Power lever lock, it's set. Hook, it's down. Landing gear, 3 down and locked on the left and on the right. Flaps, they're set. Max rudder switch, 20 degrees. Crew, they're ready. Harnesses, locked. All right, we're rolling out just a little bit, but keeping that turn in so we can set ourselves up for a good start. The start is a physical point in space behind the boat when we actually start flying the ball. If you mess this part up, the rest of your landing is basically shot. Now, I haven't mentioned it at this point, but he's also trying to work down to get on speed. We have to bleed off enough energy for the airplane to be at the right angle of attack so that the hook made the right angle to catch a wire. That's called being on speed. Okay, he just rolled wings level, now we're at the start, and he's flying the ball. You can hear the pitch of the engines change as he tries to keep the plane energized while also coming down a couple hundred feet a minute. Meatball, line up, AOA. Meatball, line up, AOA. Meatball, line up, AOA. Ball, 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 right rudder, ball, ball, ball. There it is. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you do a shit hot in a Navy C-2 Greyhound.